Good evening, everyone. We are on to the 106th episode of Book of Hours, playing as the artist, and I have a little bit of work to catch up from on Monday's episode. So we looked at Heart, we looked at Nectar, we looked at Scale, we looked at Grail, Edge, but we do have some Moth and Moon to work with. So the reason why I want to do this is just so that I can give myself some realistic ideas about what I can do with my skills. And I know it's my least favorite way of pursuing sort of puzzles in this game, just to take to take the memories and sort of just throw them into the different tabs and just iterate over them. But this is a chance for me to save the effort of of calling in some of the extra help. And like I've sort of said in a couple of episodes, the main idea behind that is to avoid a situation where I feel like avoid a situation isn't quite what I mean, but what I'm sort of looking to try and do here is I'm trying to get to a point where I have a good idea of what my baseline capabilities are. I want to go as far as I can with them and essentially make it so that the next batch of rooms, once I do start using some of this higher level help, basically I want those to feel a lot easier than what they normally would. And again, whether or not that's a good way of approaching the game, for me that's going to be a way that I hopefully wind up learning a little bit more about some of the combinations that work well. So actually, here's a good example here. We were talking about the honey, so the Skin Shuck Mead wound up being a big one. I have a feeling that we've actually gone quite far with the with some of the moth stuff. Actually, this is a good one to know too, because I was talking about how Asmiel was a something I could potentially use to create the Wormwood Dream. Well, now we have that link. So as long as I'm putting together moth and a liquid, I'm good. And better still, it's not that hard for me to generate. So essentially, an Inks of Revelation, a Tryst, and a Inks of Revelation, Tryst. Sun's weaknesses, but that's just really reading a book. I would ideally find a mothy drink. I don't think the Witching Tisane quite fits the bill. But as long as something accepts another memory, or I can find another way of getting that two moth, we're in good shape. So that's one I will keep in mind. Moving on. This is, again, why I see some value in trying this sort of stuff. Even if I wind up learning, okay, I've tried this stuff before, I do sometimes discover or rediscover important items. So I can't recall if the Name Day Riddle can be transformed into something. I should probably try that at some point, but now's not the time for that. Oh, I seem to remember commenting on this before, that I have a lot of very high-level moth things. Okay. So it's really just down to Moon at this point, and I feel we've tried some Moon already, so hopefully that's not too much of a burden. Under Substances and Shadow, what do I do? I guess in a pinch I can use the clouds, but that's not the most exciting option here. Well, the Asmiel, I suppose, would be the... Okay, and then pigment. So there's Black Sapphire Wash is one of the things that I could use when we get everything worked out for ourselves. But right now I don't have access to that. So, oh yes, I also forgot that the Chronsochord is something that lets Reverend Timothy. So we wouldn't even need to worry about the Sacrament Asite if I felt it was easier to build a Chronsochord. I think it is easier for me to make Sacrament Asite, but I've had a few things available to me that I sort of dropped the ball on. Yeah, it's frustrating I don't have more moon to work with. I don't know if it's the M or if it's something else, but I always find Moth and Moon very easy to overlap. Okay. What do I want to do with this? So it pains me to do so, but it's probably just as easy for... Oh, hang on. Okay, right. That's still not going to do the trick. I think we'll just leave it empty at this point. It doesn't hurt to have something extra inside, but it doesn't seem to really be contributing anything. Okay. Really? Alright, well, that's a lesson learned. Very interesting. Okay, so the Pyrus or Calcineus is quite a bit more accessible than I thought. It's also interesting to see eggs coming up so much, but eggs are quite challenging if you don't have the right crafting station to work out. I have a feeling what we're going to be learning a lot about midnight marks, and that's about it. But yeah, so I think what I might do is I might try and work out some sort of Asmiel sort of crafting system. And as long as I can produce that on a somewhat regular basis... Why on earth did I think that was Moon? There's a few of those, actually. I mean, again, they're all looking for high-level Moon, which I'm going to be getting from the Asmiel itself, so they're not... In practical terms, they're not something I can actually use, but they are sort of nice to knows. Okay. Yeah, unless we find an extra moon to work with, we're stuck. Although the funny thing is, when I get 2 of these, I should be in much better shape. Okay, so the lesson I'm getting out of this is I need to try and find some combination that goes Inks of Revelation, Tryst. In this case, it's a mem. Actually, no, hang on. This is it. This is really just a question now of finding a liquid and calling it a day. So... Witching to Sane is an easy answer there, and given that I don't have much to do with my Arab, we can make a replacement here. I don't really need to do this, but there's the beehive, and then we can use the core to make a bit of money when the time comes. Okay, I'm actually feeling quite a bit better about my prospects. So again, first priority is going to be to bring Reverend Timothy and get him to do his thing, and from there we can come up with a plan based on what we find inside the room. Mrs. Kill has seen more of the world than she usually lets on. Conversations with her yield the occasional surprise. As I used to say in my youth, the day is done, and so am I, but I've earned my pay. I think there might have been a small argument for me to try and make something with the name day riddle, just so I can have that in the inventory and see, you know, maybe there's a recipe that I overlooked, but I'll live. I've got enough that I can do for the next little while. Given how the wood gets used in a few recipes, it wouldn't be a terrible idea for me to take a few more trips out on the moor, and then also there are some things that I can get at Crowcross Sands. The problem is that I'm sure you've all noticed over 100 episodes or so, I do have kind of hoarding tendencies, and so the drawback is that if I don't rein those in, I wind up with a house just full of stuff that I can't use, and it just makes it harder to find things. So, with Keeper level Moon, not Moth, Asmiel can deepen to Black Sapphire. Okay, so the fact that it's Moon, not Moth is a feature, not a bug in this case. Honey or beeswax, if I'm careful. Okay. Trying to find a place for all this honey is a little bit of a challenge. I'll put it in the Keeper's Lodge if I have to, but I'm trying to avoid... Yeah, it looks like I'm just short of space. I can crowd the shelves a little bit more, but we've got some tea here. Some people like honey with their tea. What can I say? But I can definitely see this being used to make a wormwood dream. That's not that difficult to work with. And then, yeah, so the big challenge right now is actually just figuring out how ambitious I want to try and get with some of my plans. Let's at least preserve a memory. We'll keep the solace, I suppose. Now that night has fallen, I can rest and perhaps dream on the day's doings. But I've got two sort of major characters that I want to do things with. So we've got Mr. Kill with Winter and the Wormwood Dream. However, the Wormwood Dream will be available later in the day. And then we have Reverend Timothy with the Knock. And I actually think probably the Knock is the higher priority right now. Yeah, I can see it going both ways, to be honest, but... Memories fade, assistance departs, but the soul is refreshed. Okay, so let's use Faust in this case to talk with Reverend Timothy. Reverend Timothy enjoys thoughtful conversation, prayer, and tea. He'll offer his assistance in return for a 1 shilling donation to church funds. We do appreciate the contribution. Sorry, I just need to sneeze. I thought I did anyway. So the tough question here is with Mr. Kill. So if I take a look at the checklist of things that I want to do with Reverend Timothy, I've already got the memory I'm talking with him with. We've got the Shapt already, and we've got the Sacramentacite. So it's 10 seconds to get him, 30, 1 minute. So it's 100 seconds total for me to get him up and ready to go. And I'm not going to want to use him for memories. With Mr. Kill, we've got the Whist. We don't have the Wormwood Dream yet. Why did I say I would use the Lunar Globe? Anyways, we can still bring him up to 14 winter. So yeah, I mean, it's a little ambitious, but let's bring him in as well. Mr. Kill always enjoys a chance to catch up with me. If you don't choose a topic, Mr. Kill will offer help as a friend. Now, this has committed me towards producing a Wormwood Dream, otherwise I'm stuck. So we're going to do that now. We take the Tryst, we take the Asmiel. We have to use Edict's Edicts Martial. I don't have anything else for that. And it just occurred to me I'm probably using the old wound as well, which is a little more than I was bargaining on. Unless, well, okay, so there is technically one other memory that I can use, and I will go for it in this case. We're not talking with Mrs. Kill anyway, but let's go for... I don't need to get too clever with this. Let's try It Is Written. I've already mastered this, but I could reread it and perhaps recall a memory. And this just saves me the trouble of giving up the old wound, which is something that I can keep. Okay, so out of the things that I'm looking to build, we are good. Now, I think one of my original plans was to try and do something with Sky, which would require the... that would require my Faust, which is clearly used in getting Reverend Timothy on board. So, in the interests of just trying to make something of the day, let's get another one of the Asmiel on the way. Brew with Silvery Moon Ink, links a revelation with Scholar level Moth, plus liquid creates Asmiel. And in order to get a replacement, we'll just use the other Arab at the kitchen range. Hush House still rings with thwarted desires. I'll mix that into a Tisane. Okay, so I thought I was making the worm... Oh, right. No, I remember why I'm not making the Wormwood Dream, because I'm getting the memory. Okay. So that's my... That's kind of my factory. In fact, it occurred to me I don't need to use Trist as much. If I were to use honey, then I could also use a fet. Not that the difference matters all that much, but... Alright. I'm sure there are other things for me to do with the day, but let's get on with it. I have a slight worry with the Wormwood Dream, but we should be fine in the grand scheme of things. This would have been good for the Foss, so I might be willing to recover that with the... Alright, let's focus on the Shapt side first. So, Reverend Timothy is always, always happy to chat. Education or beguilement? So, first thing I want to do is I'm going to need to improve Mr. Kill with the whist, so we're going to restore the whist. Tuppence will buy me a hearty meal and a quiet place where I can rest and gather my thoughts. It is summer. I'm sitting outside the bench. I'm sitting on the bench outside the Sweet Bones, eating crumbly cheese and nettle wrappings and good black rye bread, soaking up the sun. So the next... Carry the memory like a flambeau, safe through the mazes of night. So, if I can, I'll try and bring the Faust back, but I think maybe what I'll do is I'll use the metal to earn some money first, and then we'll bring back the Faust. It's not that big of a deal for me. Being able to get the Wormwood Dream is, and being able to get a cycle of, you know, restoring. Like, again, the factory that allows me to build Asmiel has a few benefits. So not only am I able to do things like, you know, read the... so I should see if Nyx Abilix is now a book that I can read, given that I can regularly produce this ink. I should see if there are some other things that I can do to try and, you know, try and make these things work. In any case, let's start by talking with Reverend Timothy about the Curious Hunch. Exalt with a memory. I can discuss a memory with my assistant. So after that, the Sacrament Ascite will secure the room that I want. It is written, Musgrave, fourth of the DeWolf line, writes tentatively about the Covenant of Brankrug and the legacy of the sacred inks he calls Incasta Potentalia. As the light passeth through a prism into many colors, so the great inks separateth into the lesser inks, and the lesser inks into inks minor. Musgrave coyly refuses to talk about the great inks, or else refuses to admit that he doesn't know much about them. He insists that Ugol and Stargol, which can be mixed with sufficient nectar or sky aspect, are sufficient for most befitting purposes. So the confounding parable is it's a weak preference of mine, just because it allows me to. It's one of these things that a follower can't produce on their own. And so in that case, if I do wind up talking with someone, for any reason, it just winds up having it gives me a little extra. All right. So recall a forgotten crime of moon and winter. It's best when it's warm, but it'll keep. Better now. Alright, so we'll be using that with Mr. Kill before too long. Right now we'll earn some money, so fixing and mending, there's not much work on offer in Brandkrug, but I can always find 6 pence worth of odd jobs. And there we go. There's Reverend Timothy, so he's got his 7 knock. Just a reminder, because we're going to be going in for a consumable now. We're trying to open up the sealed cell, and we are going to do that by giving him the sacrament ascite when the time comes. I believe the time has now come. I just can't remember if I had any in the pantry. I do. A nice drop. I can offer my assistants something to drink. This will increase their aspects. They'll also be glad of the refreshment. With Kiefer level moon, not moth, Asmail can deepen into black sapphire. So we've used up anything on the sort of the production line for Asmail, but again, I'm fine with that because we've already got more than enough as far as the Wormwood Dream is concerned. I could in fact use the Wormwood Dream with the Solomon's Preparation to pretty much guarantee myself a Nillicant, which would allow me to read some of the winter and scale books pretty much without any trouble. But we don't need to go crazy with these things yet. So down to the Grussians. This has boosted their aspects appropriately. So the sealed cell. A sign outside the cell reads, "Warning, do not insert keys without first invoking adequate authorization. The key is in the staff room, but I shouldn't turn it without invoking powers to provide a reasonable facsimile of authorization." So let's start focusing on Mr. Kill now. So again, the aim here is to load up the things that are not really, not consumables first. That's really the Wisp, the Wormwood Dream, and then Solomon's Preparation. And the Wormwood Dream might be considered a consumable just because of the time that it takes to produce it, but the Solomon's Preparation might be something that I sort of raise a question about. I'm going to try something with core really quick. So you have 7 winter to work with. I also don't have a winter memory to work with. So I was just thinking this is the last of the Solomon's Preparations that I have, and I have more than one winter thing that I want to do. So it's close, but I guess, yeah, a glass of water would really do the trick here. I'm sure we can generate a winter memory before too long, though. In fact, that's what the FET is good for. So I think salt might actually do the trick, but we can go for our good old friend Regret, so let's do the Fallen Cross. I've already mastered this, but I could reread it and perhaps recall a memory. So this is mostly just to prepare that prepare for a situation where I want to use Mr. Kill for opening up another room. Okay, so I was going to try an experiment with some sky recipes, so let's do that right now. And for Mr. Kill, my assistant and I will be prudent. So this is the point where I need to decide exactly what I'm building towards. So currently I've got the 4 winter to work with. It's always good to double check these things. So with the 4, I'm going to take him up to 10. That's with the Wormwood Dream. So we need 12 or 13. Okay. So I was just trying to see if I could skimp out on the sorry. I'm very easily distracted today, mostly just because I'm trying to keep an eye on my appointment for the tablet. Yeah, I'm trying to see if I can get away from using the Solomon's preparation, and I don't think we can avoid it, so let's commit. I could offer my assistant something to drink. This will increase their aspects. They'll also be glad of the refreshment. And I know I'll be making a replacement Solomon's preparation, so it's not a tragedy by any means. That's why I'm using the FET to get the memory, just to give myself a little mileage. Let's hope it is equally possible to forget this again. Wormwood Dream, if there are laws which apply only in Dream, then it must also be that there are crimes which can only be committed there. Okay, so this is interesting because of the ability to read some more books and just generally the contents of the room. So we've got the adept cell. 77 days in the cucurbit was considered enough to soften the passions of the most unrepentant adept. After that, they were usually charged and tried in closed court, very occasionally released, sometimes taken upstairs for one of Collar's experimental interviews. We have Alice licit tibi non licit, to us it is permitted, to you it is not permitted, the motto of the Suppression Bureau. Julian Cosley. Julian is known to be winterlong. At the prescribed date, his hour patron will endure him a beautiful ending, but until then he is even harder than most long to dispose of finally. That said, he is known to have been defeated by an ascendant long in the 1920s, and his true current status, a diminished survivor, a determined memory, something else, is a subject of esoteric debate. We have the Adept Cell guest bed, a bed stamped with sigils to discourage access to the Mansis in Dream. We've got 2 nocturnal books, 1 curia book, a stack of paper, or quire of paper, isle water, and a bottled candle. A quite admirable combination of 2 utterly disparate elements. Quite a quiet genius. We've got the trapped cell, so that would be looking for knock as well, or alternatively edge. Now, we did learn that we can make serpent milk, so if I am so inclined, I can move for that. Otherwise, we more or less do the thing that we did before, just to get the sacramentacite and the curious hunch. This one, I don't know. Actually, there's some books right there. So getting access to more books is always a priority to open, just in terms of opening up rooms. But there is a question in terms of how I get to the smoky chamber. I suppose I need to decide if I want the Screeching Summit or the Ravaged Cellar. I think the Ravaged Cellar might give me a little bit more. Something for me to work on later. Now, I suppose there's a question, do I want to... I think it probably makes sense for me to start cataloging a few of these. We'll start with the Curia book. Some books are to be tasted, others to be swallowed, and some few to be chewed and digested. This book was probably written around the time of Hush House's Curia period, roughly the 1700s to 1800s. If I examine it, I can learn more about what knowledge it might contain. Down to the Grushians. All right, and we use the Wormwood Dream. I can exalt this memory with my assistant. And we've got 14 winter to work with. If I want, I can catalog all 3 at the same time, but I am still kind of conscious of curses. Okay. The Fallen Cross, in which Julian Cosley, magus, immortal, occasional anarchist, argues that that through language the Carapace Cross decayed to seed the lies of our ancestors. Speeches of wound, silence is silver. There is no silver door, nor can there be, even in the moon's house. Without language, there can be no words. Without words, there can be no message. But only in silence can there be no error. And lo, even in that beginning, in that first of messages, an error. Thus did we enter the house. All right, now that was so that I could make another Solomon's preparation for Mr. Kill's use. So we'll use that with the core right now. Inks of Containment is wonderful for this. And we do need to add... I'll try and clear out the shelves in Elopolis Nook. Muddle and mix a wintry preparation. So we might want to make a couple of those. Now I realize that I'm at time, but I think it would not be a bad idea for me to start unlocking the Ravaged Cellar. Better now. Now I have an idea of this book's nature and its contents. The Book of Thrones... Edge is 5, so we can get 2 from the Arab. So we're up to 9. Yeah, we can read this right away. And this is... Actually, one thing never occurred to me... We've got Alexander Peterhands, but wasn't it Ernestine Peterhands was the quartermaster for Hendrik de Wolf? Yeah, Ernestine Peterhands. I never made that connection. Huh. Alright, that's going to be one for me to follow up at some point. Okay, let's get Mr. Kill ready to go. So memories don't last long outside books, but it's made the difference for the day. So... and again, I'm doing this mostly because I know I'm going to be going out of the apartment in a couple of minutes, so if I can start unlocking the Ravaged Cellar, you know, that just saves me a world of hurt if I let the day go by without talking to him. Doesn't mean I lose my ability to generate memories, but honestly, I'm not, like, I've got a solace, I'll just keep that overnight. You know, it's not the end of the world. Alright, the Ravaged Cellar. This room, too, has been visited by worms, the abomination of the relic kind, but almost no traces remain. Alright, so we'll let that do its thing. So, obviously quite a bit of progress in the house today, so in terms of things that we sort of know that we can do, we're not in the same place that we were at the start, but the problem is actually very similar. So essentially we've got another room which we want to unlock with knock. I think that makes the most sense. I don't see myself using up the I don't see myself using up, say, the serpent milk just because Perinculate is valuable to me in other ways. We can generate 13 knock, so there's no worries there. It's just a matter of making the Curious Hunch and the Sacrament Aside again. And then for winter, again, I was already making my choice between the cellar or the Screaming Summit. The other reason why I was interested in taking the cellar is that once we get the Screaming Summit, we just have that room. Now, it's not that there's nothing useful up here, but it does mean that my options are closed off, that essentially any progress will be in the Cucurbit from now on. Whereas unlocking the cellar, I have this room, which was actually one of the most, I won't say the most challenging for me to open, but this one actually stayed idle for a very long time in my previous playthrough. And then this one, we'll see what's in there when the time comes. But in any case, it's just the difference between one option closes off possibilities, whereas another one opens up to others. So this seemed to be a little more sensible between the two. I do want to put some priority in terms of opening this one up just because that'll give me access to more books, but we know we can read one, we've got 2 more that we can catalog, and then of course if that wasn't enough, I do have some options in terms of reading. I think I've already said that the Cucurbit Prisoner Records and my Deeds, Powers, Achievements, and the Injustices Perpetrated Against Me were in the realm of possibility. And then on top of all of that, now that we have a reliable way of producing high levels of winter, we can probably read The Scar in the Sky and Nyx Abolix. And on top of that, it may not even be a matter of the Wormwood Dream. It could just be a matter of using Asmiel at the desk. So, on top of that, we have a couple of other resources available to us, just in terms of being able to open some more areas. The other thing that I might want to be looking at would be, reading books is, we've gotten a big boost because being able to regularly produce certain inks, being able to regularly produce certain memories will allow me to sort of reach even further in terms of books. But those books are really only good so long as they teach me things that I can use to enhance the assistance or otherwise get access to the things that I need to do. So with that in mind, one of the things I would like to prioritize is basically just the ability to produce certain, maybe forge-oriented or maybe a few more nectar items. Again, it's nice to be here just because we've been able to unlock a couple more rooms, but I do, where possible, also want to think in terms of where the next phase of all of this goes. And I think one of the bottlenecks I've been working with for a while has been Moon and Forge. Moon is a harder one, though, just because there aren't a lot of Moon people. I don't know. We'll make it all work. Anyways, thank you very much for watching, and we will see you in the next one. Take care.